Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's enjoying their Sunday evening. As always, this is Mr. A from the set. Welcome to the show. Tonight, as always, we're bringing another great story to share with everybody. Um, we have the GM from Hurricane Sports Properties, Mr. Charles Nieves, that's going to be joining me momentarily. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to come in so then we can start the show. Things have really been moving and shaking this past week. Now the president caught the hoax vid-19. I'm sure everybody is tripping, but that's all right. We're gonna be okay, people, because here at the set we are resilient. We are about the people, and we are about staying together and on point as always. To our dear friends in Florida, we say hello. There is so much going on in the world, but tonight we're gonna take a step back and have a great conversation with an interesting individual. And hopefully, everybody enjoys the show and finds it entertaining. I'm just going to set something up over here. Just bear with me, people. I hope everybody's week was good. I'm sure everybody's been busy either at home or if you're an essential worker, whatever the case may be. I know my son and my daughter are both essential workers, so they've been out there. And it's okay. Oh, you can't hear? Wait a minute. Let's see. Can you hear now? Halcyon, can you hear me? The sound went away. That's probably because I dipped back in my chair. Hold on a second. Okay, let's see here. Let's see if is this better. That's better? All right. Another thing too is I believe myself and my guests have headphones on. So if you're hearing low, it came back on. Okay. This platform is a little funny, so just bear with. And if I move back and forth in my chair, sometimes it'll feel that way. But I'm going to try to get up close. You are an essential worker. You're at work. All right, so let's start the show. So, as always, here at the set, we're about building a community, and that's bringing everybody together and putting people's businesses that are out there that are friends to the show that we want to share with everybody. Who knows, at some point, you might need a vendor, and you might find them here at the set. So we like to connect everybody to everybody that has a business and make their customer base wider and broader. So tonight I want to give a salute to a special school, as you can see advertised here on my shirt, Staten Island Muay Thai. They have changed their name to Legion Muay Thai, but they are a school. Oh, sorry, wrong tab. Wrong tab. Sorry, wrong tab. This platform, I can't wait to get back in the studio because this platform seems to have a mind of its own from time to time. So let's try that again. Screen share. This is real rookie-like of me. Let's see if we get it right now. Nope. Why does this keep popping up? You know what? Let's play it by ear. Let's start with this one. All right, so as you can see, friends of the show, author and official voice of the streets, Mr. Al King, Mr. Let It Be Known himself, just made an announcement recently, and I want to make everybody aware of it. Mr. Al King just partnered up with two other individuals, and just bear with me. It says, I'm beyond ecstatic with the fruition and manifestation of a collective vision of some brothers from the hood that share the same epic goals. We got our keys today to begin the journey of something that I will employ and influence others in the very same community we were blessed to be culminated from. I want to send a huge shout out to my partners and brothers Darryl Boston and Dennis Johnson for being solid for the past 30 plus years. And we're about to change the game. Stand by for the grand opening of DJ Seafood. So, if everybody remembers, Mr. Al King was a guest on the show. He's also a friend to the show. He came on to discuss the re-release of his book, Let It Be Known. We had about 5 or 6 winners who that book was sent to. I read the book. It is an amazing book, life experience. Mr. Al King opens up in a new venture with his people, and we just want to salute him for all his continued hard work. So, Mr. Al King, we see you. All the best on your new business venture. Next up, and I'm not going to pre-announce because, of course, this thing is acting wonky. So let's see. Friend to the show, Miss Carmen Reyes. She has taken it upon herself to take her passion of crochet and knitting, and she is making custom items at home, as you can see here, Made with Love by Carmen. She has a lot more work on her Facebook page. So, if you're interested in these sorts of items, would like to place an order, please search for Carmen Reyes, as you see here on your screen. She has some really nice work. I'm just going to give her this one example. I don't want to start flipping through all her pages, but give a shout to Miss Carmen Reyes, friend to the show. She's a great person. Her work is really, really sharp, I would have to say. I've seen a lot of her items. Let's go to the next one so we can get this out of the way and get our guest all set here. Okay. So, salute out up in the Poconos. We have Mr. and Mrs. Sonera, who have just opened up One Love Nutrition. One Love Nutrition, as you can see, is a smoothie shop out in the Poconos. They have all sorts of different smoothies. They run specials for the community. They're doing a youth shoe drive. They're collecting toys for kids. They're doing all sorts of great work. So we want to give a special shout out to this couple right here, Mr. and Mrs. Sonera of One Love Nutrition. Make sure you go check them out. Once again, that's One Love Nutrition. Okay. We're almost done. And the crazy thing is that these are people, we had these things backed up for a while because of the band that we had. So, yeah, I had to get these announcements out the way. So, Hector and Michelle Mesa, they are a couple. They are realtors and brokers. If you're looking for real estate in the tri-state area, please look them up. They have a website called mesaforhomes.com, and they have a lot of great properties. They can get you loans. They can, walk you through the process from A to Z. They have brokers and so on and so forth. They've been together for almost 30 years. They have a great business. So if you're in the market right now looking for a home, please contact Mesa for Homes, and that's Hector and Michelle Mesa, friends to the show, of course. All right. So, tonight, we want to welcome a very special guest, somebody that I've been speaking about, that I wanted to bring on, and I was imploring everybody who had children, young adults, and the like to make sure that they watch the show. This gentleman's story is inspirational, and the drive, the work ethic, and all his accomplishments speak for themselves. He's a great model of what someone can do when they have ambition and drive and support. And I really hope everybody listens to this story and just gets a full understanding of what you can do with yourself if you have the ambition and you make sure that you don't let anything get in your way. So I want to welcome to the show General Manager from Hurricane Sports, Mr. Charles Nieves. Charles.
What's going on?
Welcome to the show. Glad to have you on tonight. I know I said a whole lot, but we're going to try to make this easy. I don't know how long this conversation is going to go, but let's start with the basics. So you're in a very, not precarious position, but you're in a position just like the rest of the country right now. We're all home. So, but what I want to do just give the people an understanding of who you are, what you've been doing up until this point, and the beginnings of your journey. Right now, you're in Florida. You're heading up this huge brand. I mean, the U is a huge football team. They have an amazing following. Their basketball program, I'm not going to say is the greatest, and I'm not going to say is whack, but people lean more towards the football program. But with that being said, um, I want you to tell the people where you got your start as far as your athletic ambitions, and where that led you to up and through high school and college, if you could.
Yeah, so I mean, I always, I grew up playing both basketball and football, and did it pretty well, at a young age. But as I grew up, I had an opportunity to experience a lot of different sporting events, whether it was attending or being a part of them as a participant, that helped mold my passion for sports. At the same time, I watched my dad be an executive salesperson for Xerox and do it very well. So I was at a young age excelling at sports. He was excelling as a salesperson as a minority in the 80s and the 90s and 2000s. On the business side, and so I was being cut from really to cloth, and he was a big sports fan and an athlete himself. So his success ultimately got me more and more and more and more involved in sports, and going to camps and events, and ultimately playing high school then college football, and had a great experience doing that, and realized about probably halfway through my college experience that we weren't going pro. It's one of those things where he was like, all right, well, this freshman, you get a little more playing time than he was last week.
Right.
They called a formation. You kind of run out there. They're like, nah, Chuck, he got it. So you start to spend more time on the sideline thinking. And for me, it was about who put that AT&T sign up there, or who set up this halftime promotion, and who's taking care of those donors. Like, I started looking at the business that was happening around the game, and I had an opportunity after I graduated to move to Atlanta from North Carolina to pursue my master's in sports management.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people just think it's like physical education, or you go be a coach, and there's a whole business side of sports for hustlers,
Right.
that want to go get it right. So for me, it's interesting because I grew up watching hustlers on both sides of the spectrum,
Mm.
and sellers and people that just made deals and entertained people, and just were the life of the party, and just from a family perspective. And then I was placed in an opportunity where I could literally talk sports all day, every day, and get paid for it. And my first role was selling season tickets, at a local university in Atlanta, and essentially that's just picking up the phones and calling people. When's the last time you've been to a game, and how'd that feel? Who you were with? Who are you with? How many people? Where'd you sit? When you coming back? Oh well, I could essentially give you those 3 games you went to last year, and bought on the secondary market. I could sell you a season ticket for that. What's your credit card number? Like, let's sign you up. And before you know it, you've sold 4 season tickets to someone in their family. And so I was doing that a lot, and it was on the phone, just making 100 calls a day, and doing all this stuff. And I realized I really wanted to talk to people.
Right.
The cube was fine. I was doing well, but like I really wanted to like go out and shake hands and meet people. And I had an opportunity to step into a different role in which I would essentially talk to businesses about their marketing plans, similar to what you just went through in the pre-roll. Is who are you trying to reach?
Right.
What are you doing now? These are how many fans I have. This is how passionate they are. This is what aligning with XYZ brand can do for your business. And um, I, evidently I did it really, really well. And it wasn't that I had done it before, or it wasn't that, it was something that I had been trained in, but I had just been around situations my entire life that had prepared me to go out and make friends and to meet people and to let people trust me and build that trust. So, for the past 10 years, I've been in the same business, the business of sports and college athletics as it relates to marketing and selling and generating revenue. And, it's what I do. I took it from, you know, playing on the field ever since I was probably 4 or 5 years old to, now I go to games on Saturday and sit back and watch football and get paid to do it.
Hmm. So uh, I wanted to pick up on something that you spoke to in your explanation. So I think I heard that somewhere in your travel from sort of selling tickets in Atlanta to the moment you're at now, you realized that you had a natural ability to sort of marry the knowledge of the game and interfacing with people to make sales, essentially. Um, so at what point you didn't have any mentors? You were never really around anybody in the business world. I'm saying to sort of garner an experience or an understanding of how to put those things together. Because when you're speaking to me and probably the audience, you're probably speaking a foreign language. I mean,
Right.
how do you connect what a brand that you have access to can do for a customer, right? That
Yeah.
sounds really foreign. So for me, I want to know at what point in your career did you start to realize that the culmination of your life experience, your knowledge of sports, made a natural segue into being the business person that you are
Yeah. I mean, I had mentors, right? So I had coaches, I had, older teammates, I had,
now?
people in the community that, I'd grown up watching. And I think, when you try something new, you got to surround yourself with people that know what they're doing as quickly as possible and be able to assume that knowledge and soak up as much as possible. So, while I may not have been, in Atlanta long, maybe like 6 months to a year, I made a very strong effort to go out and shake hands and meet people and find mentors and
Ah,
ask for mentors and be able to pick up on things that were happening, or why didn't I get that job, and be able to look at that person and determine why they got it, or any situation, why I was successful or why I wasn't, and be able to understand the details and correct those. But for me, I think I realized that I had a knack for, I guess, being a people person way before I became a professional. Um, and I don't even know if it was if it's something that is just in me, or is more just nurtured by family, right? Like, I have a lot of people persons in my family.
right.
Most of us are people, if you will. Like, so I mean, for
Right.
me, I just grew up in a very dynamic environment, with people that spoke their mind and were authentic and were real, and that's how I approach my day to day. And I think because of that, people respect it. They're like, they can feel that I'm genuinely like this. Like, there's no front, there's no code switch, there's no, it's just, this is who I am from the time I wake up to the limited amount of time I get to go to sleep.
So, people, if anybody who's just joining, this is Mr. A. My guest, Mr. Charles Nieves, is speaking upon his experiences and what brought him to this point. I think what I just heard Mr. Nieves say is that he, from the background he came from and his upbringing, combined with his experiences, sort of made him understand that he had an innate ability to connect with people, and being as such, he used those skills, what came naturally to him most, to connect with people and make connections in business, and how people saw his authenticity that attracted these people to him, so that they wanted to do business with him in a sense, or essentially. So that is an important thing. And also, Mr. Nieves is talking to his experiences, which I'm going to again revert back to. And I think people need to understand this. The most dangerous people in this world when it comes to business is somebody that comes from a specific background and then makes the change and goes on to higher education. Because when you combine the two, that makes for somebody who's going to be out there hustling hard. And they're going to have to see, well, people will see that energy from this person. And things will just be different. So, Mr. Nieves, I want to ask you now, let's step back from where we are now. In what point, say junior high school and high school, did you start to understand that, well, not even, let me rephrase that. How did sports and being an athlete, how did that all come about? Like, where did you get that love for the game at?
I mean, just being a probably a '80s baby in Boston in general, you kind of just grow up in it. Just Boston and the Lakers, and um, being in a city that is such a rich city as it relates to sports history and just the passion for games. So growing up around that, but also my dad was a diehard hooper, and all the way to when he ended up getting really sick, right? So he's always just hooping, right? And he always would bring me to the court and just throw me a ball and tell me go sit in the corner and just put me around situations that were sports situations, bringing me to Celtics games, stuff like that growing up, bringing me to Bruins games, didn't matter what it was, taking me to ice skate on Fridays, karate lessons, soccer, baseball. I mean, some of this stuff lasted 2 weeks. Don't get me wrong, but it was like, I fail fast. This ain't what you want to do. Like, we going
Right.
right back to basketball. We going right back to football, right? So, I got an appreciation for sports through him, but also, some of you spoke to earlier just about, me being a people person. I got an appreciation for staying in your lane and being and like doing what you're good at and running with that. I mean, I can't tell you how many people want to do stuff that they're not good at and are great, and they're great at other stuff. And that doesn't mean that they're passionate about it, which is a whole other conversation. But at some point you got to figure out how to meet in the middle with what you want to do, what you're good at, and what you can get paid to do. And right in the middle of that is what you're supposed to do, right? And for me, I've always felt like I was always doing what. And I don't take this the wrong way. You ask my parents, they'll tell you different. But I felt like I was always doing what I was supposed to do. I was hooping, I was playing football, and now I'm in sports business, and like I'm in my lane.
Okay. And this is where you're most comfortable, I see.
Yeah, I mean it's sports, right? So
Right. Right.
for me, like, I can be watching with clients, and the play will be about to happen, and I'll be like, oh, he's gone. And it'll bust wide open, and the running back will be gone. And that's my knowledge of playing, right? But that brings an authenticity to it when I go ask you for money, because like I'm knowledgeable about the game. There's a confidence level about the team that I can talk about. Like there's a confidence level about the business and the marketing side of it that I can talk about. There's an authenticity to it, which is a word that we've probably used a few times tonight, but it's real, and that's how I pitch it. Like I pitch it with the same passion as if I was the one running out of the tunnel about to play.
Now, you have come such a long way. Like, if anybody who's watching the show ever researches Mr. Nieves, at any point in time, seeing it on paper is one thing. Seeing it happen is another thing. But and understanding that this gentleman's taken such a journey, and I don't think that there's anything looking from the outside that you would believe that hindered him or caused any serious obstacles for him to endure. But understand something: he's reached this point because of obstacles and hindrance and going through adversity, right? As I understand it, Mr. Nieves is a married man. He has two children. That in and of itself, will come into play in your life, as you all know. When you get married and you have children, things change. And it's important to have the proper support system to maintain your focus and, most of all, maintain your balance, right? Because you just can't be all about business. You have to be about your family. You have to take care of your family. And I don't mean just financially, I mean mentally, physically, spiritually. So that's leading to my next question. Not to be too personal, but I think it's important that people speak to it, especially nowadays. Um, how is it being a married man in the position that you're in and towing the line and balance between your dedication to what you love to do and the people in your life that you love that are most important to you? How did you create? How has it been difficult? Hasn't it been difficult for you to create the balance between the two?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if as you grow or as you try to grow, there is balance. I think it's more of a pendulum. Like there's give and take. For me, I've been blessed to have a wife that understood that I was passionate about this before I was passionate about her, and not try to take that from me or change that. But also, um, I took that lunch pail to work every day of passion and made sure that like I brought it home with enough money to take care of the house. And it was like, all right, well, if you're gonna go play this sport, right? If you're gonna go be around all these football and you're gonna be hosting people, you're gonna be drinking and you're gonna be having fun and kissing babies and like you better make sure like, you know, you come home and everything is taken care of because I'm at home with the kids and you're out in what looks like having a lot of fun and I am and it took time, right? Because yeah, it is a lot of fun, but you also see the springtime when you're trying to chase down a sales number and you're up in the middle of the night trying to figure out what it's going to take to get someone to sign a deal and how stressed you are and something's not going right or you thought you had a deal closed and they said no and so she's seen all that too, so she understands that while it is I do work in sports and it is fun, that it's still a job and the other side of it is my development as a husband and as a professional, to make sure that I don't steer the ship, and really as a father now, right? So I don't steer the ship too far, the wrong way, trying to show my little tricks. You know what I mean? Trying to ghost ride it a little bit, like, hey, about to about to take you on a little journey around the country, and we're gonna stop at some of the dopest college programs across the country, and we're gonna see some of the biggest names in the country, and we're gonna have a lot of fun, and we're gonna be able to meet a lot of people. But at what point is it time to settle down?
Right.
At what point is it time to make sure that everybody around you, the entourage that you've built or the family that you've built or the people that you influence or you impact that are much broader than you may think. At what point is it kind of time to chill out and or be at least have those candid conversations about like how are you feeling, how do you feel about where we're at, are you happy, like all that stuff. So we've had it and it hasn't always been easy, but I think what has saved me more times than not is that the chasing the career is a lot better than chasing anything else that I could potentially get in trouble for.
All right, we're gonna edit that part out. No, I think it's see, and this is what I find value in. You know, I've had quite a different. I had a slew of different people come on the show, from all different walks of life, and I think that we did two relationship shows actually, which was really interesting to say the
Oh, I
least.
bet. Don't
Yeah,
don't don't add me to that one. I'm good.
well, we actually doing. We're actually gonna get. We having. I'm lining it up now. We're gonna do perspective of marriage from sort of generational.
Right,
A young couple, middle, and then whatever. But
for
whole
sure.
whole other topic. But I think it's important that people understand what Charles just said, revolving around what's important as far as communication with the family, and especially the two heads of the family being. Yeah, these people keep telling me that my mic is dropping out. I hate this platform, though. This is like really killing me right now. As far as speaking to the two heads of the family coming together and having a clear line of communication, right? Because somebody like Mr. Nieves and his wife cannot be in the positions that they're in and have a solid marriage and foundation if there's no communication. And not only that, that would bleed over into his children, right? Because the children see that mom and dad aren't getting along and they feel that they get the brunt. So everybody understand having a career is an amazing thing, but taking care of home on those different levels is direly important and should be addressed at every turn of the way. So let's jump let's jump ahead now. Everything's going great. You've been there in Miami now, what, 5 years?
No, no, yeah. So I've been here 2.5. I was in Pennsylvania for 2.5 too.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I was up in Pennsylvania. I've been here 2.5. It's flying by. I mean, obviously it's a different Miami now than it was back in February, when the world was open. But even in the midst of a pandemic, I get to walk outside and it still looks like Miami. So I enjoy it.
Sorry to do that. These people are sending me crazy messages about sound. I'm on the right side, Mark. So, uh, you were spending time in Pennsylvania, right?
Right.
Uh, what was life out there like for you while you were there?
I mean, it was different, right? So where I was in Pennsylvania is right in the middle of the state.
Okay.
Where Penn State is, and in State College, and it's a very rural area. Surrounded by, I believe, 7 mountains. So a lot of farm, a lot of hills, a lot of up and down, and then boom, the second largest stadium in the country pops out of nowhere, and in this small college town that is extremely passionate and loyal to their football program is there.
Very much so.
And yeah, I can say that my experience was way more positive than not. As someone that worked in sports and again knows football and knows sports and is passionate about it, it's easy to assimilate into a community like that very quickly. Because you could rah rah and cheer with the best of them.
Yeah.
I'll say that at times um, the influences of outside of the community always bleed into these utopian college towns, right? These college towns that are supposed to be perfect
Mm.
because they're schools of thought, and they're people from different areas, and they're diverse, and they're culturally rich, and they just tend college towns tend to be safe spaces, and there are experiences that you have as someone who walks the streets with their chests out, as a proud black man, just to be out and be like, whatever, like I don't have a worry, and people can take offense to that if they're not used to seeing stuff like that. And I was in the middle of small town Pennsylvania buying bottles when the homies came to town because that's what I knew. And
That's what we
that's
do.
what we do. So, people that are not used to that may see that as brass or boastful, or be ready to, you know, um, try to intimidate or cause an issue. But that's what I do too. You know what I mean? So I think you got to be able to provide real life experience with real life reaction sometimes,
Yeah.
and be able to set a tone that is fair, that won't get you in trouble. And I've had many experiences in rural towns in general where I've worked, whether it was Georgia or Pennsylvania, and even here in South Florida, which is a unique place in itself, where it's like, oh, well, that went a little sideways, and I think I know why.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up. And I can't tell you how glad I am that you brought that up. No, because I want to be very honest with you. For people have to understand that when you're in certain positions in the world and in business, Mr. Nieves giving the show his time right now is, appreciated tremendously. But I would never want to say or discuss things that would ever put him in a position to be questioned, because his work and his drive and everything that he's done in his life speaks for itself, right? Um, but I think that in the climate that we're in, and in this show, I always like to keep the dialogue open and honest, speaking to everything with everybody. Um, he speaks to a point that I really didn't know, you know, we could really touch. But I'm glad he said that because it's real. Being in sports and traveling, as many of my friends have. My friend was at Texas A&M. He was a baseball player. He told me the stories, and this is, dude, this is like early '90s. You know, you travel when you're with a school like that. You travel, right? And you get to see parts of America that, you know, a lot
Yep.
of us city boys don't get to see, and you get to experience what it's really like,
Yep.
right? Were you in Pennsylvania during Sandusky or?
Yeah, no, I was after.
Oh,
Yeah, I was I came after, and but you could still feel it. You walk into these bubbles, and you meet a lot of people named Joe, after Joe Paterno, and you talk to people, and you shake their hands, and they reassure you, and their eyes swell up like, hey, we're not like that. And it's tough because we tend to characterize groups by individuals in general on both sides, right? So you get to understand at minimum, at face value, why something like that can crush a community,
right,
and rightfully so, right? It was a tough situation, but I think the more time you spend there, or just anywhere where anything's happened, right, drastic and catastrophic, you understand even more why sports play an integral role in life, because that's the ultimate language, the ultimate unifier. Like you can squad up and go against someone else at the end of the day, and settle it on the field, on the court, wherever it may be.
right. I think I'm so glad you came on the show because people need to start understanding that. Especially nowadays, even more. I mean, it's 2020. To hear that even in the 2000s, that you were still sort of at this level that you were in your career and able to experience this down home, authentic Pennsylvania welcoming. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because my dad being in the military, I was able to spend time in these. I was in Virginia, Florida, like funny places in Florida and in the Carolinas and stuff. And I don't really think people understand unless you left New York and you've traveled, you get a real sense of what's really going on when people talk about it.
yeah.
But I'm glad you brought that to the table. So now you're in Pennsylvania. Now, is this something? Is this a situation where you were putting your feelers out, or did they come knocking on your door at this point?
That's a great question. As far as going to Pennsylvania or leaving Pennsylvania?
Leaving.
Well, yeah, leaving. For me, honestly, and this isn't a secret to my organization, but there were a few, too many of those situations where we didn't feel comfortable, and nothing too aggressive or anything that couldn't be handled. But when it starts impacting your kids, when they're being told they can't play, and just not understanding why. For me, And let me be clear, there were a lot of people that were in my network in that community that were really impacted by stuff like that and upset about it. But it also, as parents, when you sit down and you talk about the career and the decisions that you have to make, and I talk about the pendulum, it was like dope job, awesome brand, big school, huge football, making sure I raise my kids in a spot where they're not gonna be the only chocolate little girls, and they only a little dab of chocolate too. I mean, they got a whole bunch of other stuff clearly in them,
Yes,
but
sir.
like where they're not even gonna be questioned, right? They're gonna. I can, I sat down with Amy, my wife, and we said we can put them in a situation that is more inclusive, and I work for a great organization, Told Leadership, and they transferred me in a true collegiate athletics term to Miami. Gave me an opportunity to move down here with the family and grow roots.
Yes. I mean, um, I see the way that you speak about your wife and your children. Um, some certain things that when you say, I'll pick up on because I'm on the outside, right? Um, so I'm sure there's other people watching the show that picked up on it. When you speak, when you said your wife Amy's name, um, what is her role and how impactful has her role been as your wife for as long as you guys have been together with all these transitions? Like, how does she really? She doesn't. I'm sure she doesn't go through these moments of trying to strong arm you, because because I sort of get the feeling that you guys have a clear understanding of what's going on with each other and where things are headed. But her in her role as your wife, do you ever get the feeling like she's nudging you in a different, like in a certain direction to sort of say, yeah, that Miami's a good look? I'm sure you probably had other, offers on the table, but you know, did she have any power in that decision?
A whole lot, right? A whole lot of power, a whole lot of influence. I think it was less a nudge with a smile. And when we were in Pennsylvania, it was more like we got to go. I would go home and when we were in PA, she was at home raising the girls. They were, I want to say 5 and 3. So they were really young. And we moved there when they were 3 and 1. Right. So that whole time she was home and like, I realized it was a wrap. Like when I would get home, be ready for like the best meal ever. And like, the house was crazy. She would like dap me up and go to Starbucks for like an hour because she was tired of the kids, and like it wore on her. So I think for me, I had to like maybe the subtle nudges over the months prior and the year prior, and so like I had to like physically see that like the situation we were in when it was snowing 6 months, 7 months out of the year, and we were at home and not in a diverse community. We had eaten at every restaurant in the city twice. Like I was cool because on Saturdays it was like we back at it with football, but like I had to see the impact it had on her. And that's when you just gotta have those conversations like, all right, well, this is what I do. Like what part of the country, what type of weather, like, where do you want to be? And even before that though, we had conversations where it was like, hey, like this might be like a every 2 to 3 years we're gonna move, and we might have to move across the country, but we're gonna move up. Like I promise you, we're not taking a step back. Like anytime I ever ask you to pack a box, it's because we about to go get right. Like we about to go cash in. It's a bigger opportunity. I'm about to take care of it. We're gonna be all right. So over the mini moves, which I'll say we've had about 7 or 8 or 9, but who's counting? But over the mini moves, um, she became less and less responsible for moving, and just was like, all right, I'll meet you there. Like, yeah, like I'm
The
not
directive.
packing no, yeah. So I mean, you gotta be in tune with the verbal and the nonverbal, right? Like when she's packing the box on move one, and she's like, I ain't packing no boxes no more. I'm like, I bet not packing boxes. Like I just started taking notes. So every single time we moved, like it was like, all right, but you said we could dip if you didn't do this time. So we gotta get the movers now. So it became more and more of, I just, meet me there, and I'm gonna try to take care of the job. and she became more instrumental in go set the house up. Like I'm gonna go hustle because every move was more responsibility. So it was less time at home. It was more stress. It was more opportunity. It was bigger teams. It was all that, right? Whatever comes with it. And for me, like the understanding was, but when I get home, like just let's make sure the bed feels like our bed. Let's make sure like the spaghetti we cooking smells like our spaghetti. Let's make sure like everything just feels like home, right? And that's where she's been a significant support in my development because I can kind of take the daddy in the work and the sports business cape off, come home, kick the shoes off, and just be me.
And I'm sure that's really, I mean, it's direly important to be able to disconnect from the outside world, right? And not have, a million emails coming in while you're trying to spend time with your family, and just being able to literally leave it alone, right? And
Right.
unplug. So now you guys are in this space. Now COVID happens, right? And we're all in this situation, whatever. And things are looking the way they're looking. But let's get a little bit more. I want to talk about how it was for you to make, well, not even the transition. How was playing sports for you, at the college level or even in high school, right? Um, you spoke about the impact that your father had in your development as an athlete, right? So so what was it like playing sports for you? One, from like, wherever you want to pick up, junior high school on, and how important do you think it was, um, for your development as an athlete and as a student, to have the proper support system to make you understand, like, hey, you know what, I can play at this level. What gave you that confidence, be from a young man into a young adult?
Yeah, I mean, from the start of my sports experience, sports has helped me become who I am, and that losing games, winning games, competing, practicing, really going to work every day, right? But when you're young, it's fun, right? Like I can get my girls right now to clean the whole crib if I sing a song and make a game out of it, right? Because
Hmm.
it's fun, right? As you get older, it becomes a job,
Right.
right? So all through middle school, it's all right. This is still kind of fun. High school, it's fun, but it hurts a little more. Like they're a lot bigger,
Hmm.
and you gotta love it a little more at that point because you're gonna get banged on. And then as you get to college, and I don't know what the pros is like, but I can only imagine a million times worse. But as you get to college, it's you're surrounded by people that for the most part are just as good as you, and you really gotta work. It's a job,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So and you got to bring it every day, or you're gonna lose, and you're gonna lose your spot, right? And the thing about that is, in sports, it's particularly in college sports that in athletes that are on scholarship, like when my senior year when I lost my spot, like they didn't cancel my meal card,
Really?
right? No, they didn't. I could still go eat, right? Like in real life though, when I lose my spot, like ain't no checks coming in, right? So for me, I think sports like built me in that like I'm always ready to go. Like I'm going to compete. Um, I know how to handle adversity. Extremely competitive. All the stuff that I learned playing. I really approach it like in the business world too. So I feel like I'm still playing a little bit. I like for me, I got in a few incidents in high school, and the D1 coaches stopped calling, and I was a bit of a rambunctious kid, no more rambunctious than anybody in my family, but um, I got in some trouble, and for me, like I take that with me to this day. Like when Jordan was kept saying he takes it personal. Like I take every mishap I've ever had personal. I take every drop ball I've ever dropped in a game personal. Like I take every comment that anyone's ever told me that I wasn't going to be able to do something personal, and I still have resentment, and it still fuels me to this day. Like I just want to win, right? So I blame that on sports. You know, it's
Right.
just something that was built, you know, in me from really day one.
Well, people, if you're just tuning in, I'll say it again. We have the general manager from Hurricane Sports Properties, Mr. Charles Nieves, and he is sharing all of his experience with us here on the show. Um, this gentleman is just dropping jewels, and I think a lot of people who probably have never played sports can understand that. Um, I know when I play sports, listen, if I dropped the ball, I was tight, and I played with such uh fierce competitors, like my quarterback, dude, he I don't know, he was just one of those guys that he was on all the time, right? Wake me up like we had Sunday games. Wake me up at 7:30 if we had the first game with Rock and Jock, and I'm like, bro, it's 7:30. Like, what are you doing, right? But that same sort of feeling of I take it personally, those missteps, and you beat. Well, I know I used to beat myself up. I go nuts, and those plays will run throughout the whole week. But the point I'm trying to make is, I think that having that mindset and that drive going into the business world or just working and dealing in life every day makes you sort of a better person. You have a different sort of edge over other people, right? There's some people that are book smart, but the book smart doesn't translate into the world experience, does it? And having to be able to connect with people the way you do in your job, those books can't teach you that, right? So, in a way, it's giving you sort of another weapon in your arsenal. So, you leave school, you're transitioning. I saw that you spent time in the YMCA. Am I correct?
Yeah, Boys and Girls Club.
Boys and girls.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You good? You good?
YMCA was on my head for some reason.
It's all good. I'm not on the payroll no more. It really don't matter. It's all good. Yeah,
So you over there, you make some moves, you're at Penn, and now you go through this experience of and I can't even understand what it would be like because I understand that Pennsylvania is a gun friendly state. So to have sort of that environment, I can't imagine. But now you're in the Sunshine State. You're in the hub where I mean almost everybody loves to go to is Miami, right?
yeah.
You're raising your family, and this opportunity comes, and you're there. What has there been a huge change in the way personnel deals with you or your dynamic with your staff? And also, has there been any sort of adversity um, with the level of comfort that you have with the people that you're interfacing with? You understand? Because when you change environments, even though you're in the same business, now
Right.
people have to become familiar with you and your style and understand your approach. And when you come in the level that you did, sometimes that person that was gunning or biting for that position, they might take that as a swipe and try to make things a little difficult for you. So I was wondering if you could sort of speak to your experience in moving down there to Miami.
Yeah. I mean, there's always situations, you know, that you face when you either get a promotion or you step into a new job where you know there's folks that are there or have been there or have opinions, right? You know, I think part of being a leader is understanding what type of leader you are,
Mm-hmm.
and what the expectations of you as a leader are. And for me, you know, when I got down here was to change the culture of the program that I was running, right? And I say program because I'm an athlete, right? A business unit, right? Like my team, the marketing and business development team, but my program, right? It was to change it. It wasn't to be status quo. It wasn't to take over something that was operating, you know, at a high level and to make it better. It was to change it, right? And so with that, you know, you have to come with a certain amount of confidence that you know you got the sauce. Like you got it. Like what you bring into the table is the reason you're there. And then with that, there's a level of confidence that's like you better get on board or here's the outside world, right? And to be able to kind of to exude that confidence and to look people in the eyes, just like, you know, when there's 2 seconds left on the clock and they're like, oh, run the play that goes to Chuck. And coach is like, you got this, and you want me to shoot off the glass, or you want it all net, right? Like you gotta be able to exude that
Right.
confidence that is like, yo, I got this.
Right.
And so for me, I tried to bring that to the table from day one. And yeah, I mean, I think internally, sure, there's going to be personality clashes anywhere you go. And I think internally and externally with people that we deal with, this young, half black, half Puerto Rican kid that sounds like he's from the Northeast, but can sweet talk you like he's from North Carolina and be a gentleman. But, I thought he came from Pennsylvania, but he spent time in Georgia. And like, I don't really know what just happened, but I just signed the deal. Right. So at the end of the day, I think what I try to do is learn people, and as I learn them, they can learn me. And part of that is less about going places and telling people who you are, is sitting down and listening to people and asking about them. And one thing we know about people is they like to talk. So I just kind of sit back and try to get to know people, and from our conversations, I can strategize how I need to approach the relationship.
So I've taken that little tidbits in our conversation that you're very observant. You like to listen, and you also like to deliver your message, right? In connecting with these people that you're doing business with. So in listening to all these things that you've brought to the table, could you tell the people in the audience, because you said, I know that I have the sauce, and you have to be able to exude that confidence. And I know there's a lot of people that watch the show that have started businesses, have been in business before, um, and I think they would benefit from hearing from somebody like yourself, you know, these key elements and how they should always approach situations, um, to get what they want, so to speak.
Yeah.
Um, and being, in the again in the position that you're in, dealing with all these different personalities, that's something that people don't understand wholeheartedly or 100% have a grasp on how to navigate,
Right.
right? Um, and could you sort of offer up some advice? I guess is what I'm trying to say to people who are in this realm of doing business and trying to make sales, um, because again, there are so many people that are switching up nowadays, and there are people already that have sort of already been there, but they're not really. They don't have that sauce.
Right.
What do you think are some of the key elements you would want to obtain or try to retain in building the sauce, in business?
Yeah. I mean, I think um, it's got to be yours. Like it can't be nobody else's.
Mm,
Like for me, if I could sit through a 2 hour training, and I'm only going to take a little bit of it, because like it's like pepper, it's like salt, it's like whatever you need to add into it to make it yours. And everybody's different. And I've seen people try to follow the lead to their detriment, as opposed to um, you know being a role player. You know what I mean? And contributing to the team in a way that is beneficial to them, and is suitable to them. So for me, again, I said stay in your lane, but like, stick to the script. Like I always, I'll get out of pocket sometimes and have to be like, I, elbow in, like bend your knees, you know what I mean, and just breathe. And it goes back to my dad teaching me how to shoot free throws, and it was the same thing every time. It was like elbow in, bend your knees, and breathe. Right. So I'll tell my team sometimes like elbow in, bend your knees, and breathe. And what that means for me is like don't get out of pocket. Like just whatever the situation is, like have the confidence and the knowledge, or at least the self-esteem to know that you're the expert in your business. And if you're not, sauce is extra, right? Like sauce is not the meal. Like that's what you putting on it.
right.
So like, you know what I mean? And some people may not even like it. And some people may not even want no sauce, right? And you got to figure all that out. But like for me, like the sauce is the individuality. Like so if you're gonna be a business owner, I would hope it would be to stand out amongst your peer businesses, amongst your competitors, amongst whoever, right? You're gonna have to stand out. Like put your sauce on it, whatever that is, right? Like make sure it's yours, and make sure you're confident about it. Like I can't tell you how many times people have tried to sell me stuff in just the meek voice, or just not understanding their own product. It reminds me of a time me and one of my closest friends were at a Michigan football game. We drove up from Pennsylvania to the big house, biggest football stadium in the country, and they had great fans. We were decked out in Penn State gear. They were letting us party with them, and with some little kids walking around selling candy bars with their football jerseys on. And little black kid, probably about like 8 years old, comes up to me, little roly poly, cute kid. He's like, "Hey man, you want to buy a candy bar?" I'm like, "No." And he kind of like everybody around me that don't look like me. I'm with a bunch of people that just don't look like me. But that's cool. They're like, "What just happened?" This black guy just told this young black kid he not gonna buy a candy bar. I'm like, "Why? Why should I buy your candy bar?" He's like, "I mean, it supports my team." Like, I'm like, "What position do you play?" He's like, "Oh, well, I play, offensive line." I'm like, "What's your name?" He tells me he's at my side. Cool, do this. I was like, next person you talk to, tell them your name, tell them what position you play, ask them if they want to buy you a candy bar. As a matter of fact, don't even ask them. Now ask them how many candy bars they want. Like just go up there and say how many candy bars you want. He walks up to, come, I said, go try it again. He comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm Johnny, and I play offensive line for the Thunderbirds. I'm number 82. How many candy bars you want?" Like, "I want three." Pulls out three. I tapped my homie. I said, "Pay the man." Like, cause he went through he
Yeah.
he went through the sales process, right?
Yes,
Like
sir.
he went through like how to create his own sauce, right? So and I didn't, he probably went on and may have sold two more, may have sold 10 more. I don't know, right? But my point is what I tried to do is take that opportunity to coach someone who probably didn't care what I was teaching him, but how to go sell five more candy bars and be able to engage people. And hopefully he remembers that down the road. And he may be in a situation where he's interviewing for Foot Locker down the road for his first job, or he's interviewing, to be a teacher down the road at an elementary school. And that may take him back to that moment. So just be yourself and create your own sauce.
People, if you're just joining us, I think what my guest here, Mr. Charles Nieves from Hurricane Sports Properties, has just said is the source is you and your experience and how you cultivate who you are and that experience and make it work for you in the world.
All right.
I think that's exactly or somewhat what he was trying to say to everybody, right? So let's change gears. Um, I think this is something that is important, and I want to bring it to the forefront and the table. Um, so throughout our conversation, you have made mention of your parents, right? And I understand that your father was truly uh, a foundational pillar, if you would, in your life and who you are today, right? So, could you speak to the importance of having your dad in your life almost every step of the way in this journey that you've made? Because I know a lot of people, a lot of young men, a lot of young women, but we'll speak to young men at this moment, and we understand the importance of young women. But it young men right now that don't have that in their life, right? So if you could you speak to the importance and how much his presence brought you to this point, if you would?
I mean, influential, right? I mean, the most influential, really. If I think oftentimes when you're young, you have that superhero mentality about daddy. You tend to be naive and overlook certain things, and or just not understand them, right? Or just be ignorant. Ignorance is bliss. So I think there's phases of a father and a son relationship, if you will. And for me, um, I got to experience a significant amount of the superhero, like my dad is perfect phase, and he was sending me to camps and buying me the Penny Hardaways and the Jordans and doing great at work and the suburbs and all that stuff, right? Everything everybody wants. And then as I got older and he got sick, when I got to high school and through college, um, there was probably a lot that I learned about him that we couldn't talk about, right? Just about, some of the contributing factors to potentially the sickness or some of the abuse, the substance abuse that was like I watched a man, unfortunately, um, change into something that I didn't know and I didn't understand. And I think as an adult, to be able to have, I wish I could have those conversations because as you grow, and you mature, you can have conversations. So I spent, a lot of my teenage years very angry at him because he was going through some things that I didn't know about. I don't think anyone knew about. People get sick and get Alzheimer's and really lose their minds, right? And I'm here. I am playing college football, and my pops isn't around because he's getting sick, right? So I'm building this resentment for someone who had been at every single game from day one all the way through college. But then you learn a lot about yourself and who you are and who that person made you. Because I remember playing games in September that he'd go to, and then 2 weeks later or 2 months later, he'd come to another game and just look physically totally different. And he was losing weight like really, really quickly. And as a 18, 19, 20-year-old young man, like you don't understand what's going on, right? So, I say that to say like he's been influential to me in phases of my life, like my growth in in building my passion for sports, my passion for business, and teaching me how to be a probably one of the best fathers I've ever seen, one of the best brothers, one of the best uncles, all that, right? I've ever seen, but also at times teaching me how to not navigate the world. Like, he probably could have not did that one, Pop. So, he probably could have not did. And being able to learn from that, right? So, I think, and now just, seeing them in my kids. So, I think for me, being able to gather perspective from every side of him and not just the good side, but like every side and as an adult, as a father, really,
Right.
because if not, I'll fall into the same traps. You know what I mean? Like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And, I got it bad on both sides, brother. My mom ain't no different. So, for me, I gotta really pay attention to the good and the bad and try to keep it right, like in the middle and navigate the ship.
Mm. People, again, if you don't understand by now, this is exactly the reason why I do this show, to have people connect with each other. And I think what Mr. Nieves just spoke to is is something that I think we all need to hear, right? I think we as young men, as young adults, and as fathers, being able to be honest about the things that we've seen in life and we experienced, and not speak from a standpoint of anger or resentment at this point in juncture, because we're men and we've grown through the experience, but to just be honest about it, right? And I think that it's something that we should all, at some point or another, address. And Mr. Nieves has taken such, man. I have to commend you, because being able to approach the situation and explain it the way that you did, it says a lot to who you are, right? As a father, as a husband, and as a son. Um, but let me ask you a question, because I seen a little twinkle in your eye when you said, my mom as well. Um, what is your relationship? How's it been um, after losing your dad up until this point? How was your relationship sort of changed or grown with your mom now?
Yeah, it was tough. Honestly, I mean, she was watching her best friend, pass away, and my pops was sick for like 5 years. I mean, just getting worse and worse and worse. And I saw her change. And it created a rocky relationship with us. And I got to learn a whole different perspective of love. Because like I watched part of someone die with someone. And for a while, like I probably held it against her. I was like, "Yo, you wilding? Like I don't even know you right now. Like what stuff you doing, and the way you acting and the way you talking. Like, but it was like it wasn't me. It was probably because she was looking at me and saw him. It was probably because when I walk in with a suit and my sister can look at me and be like, "Yo, you like your pops." Like I was him. Like I was hustling at that time. I was running around suited up, all shaved up, running around doing business. So for a while, I feel like there was a mutual, just a little bit of animosity because I was like, you're a little different. She was like, well, you just the same as him, right? You know what I mean? Of everything that she missed, but everything that she hated, and then the whole dating thing. She get back into the world, and yeah, I'm sitting there like, all right, I can't wait to meet Buddy, because I'm a flex on him, and she's like, all right, well, you gonna be the one that gotta go. You grown, like Mama need a life too.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so it's been years, and for us, I think people have to heal at their own pace. I think that we individually grieved the death of my dad different ways. Like I just went gung ho work. Like I'm gonna just put my nose down and go straight back to work and just work as hard as possible. And she just retired really, and kind of is living out life. And um, does she wish that I wasn't as career focused and would maybe enjoy life like her, because she's probably seen a few more things and understand at the end of the day that it's all you got is one. And yeah, do I wish that she would get up and travel the world and go see everything that she's never seen? Yeah, and maybe we'll do that together one day. But right now, her and I are really one and the same person, and very stubborn, and very aggressive and ambitious. And we do our times in spurts. But as much as my dad has supported me throughout my life, I have to say my mom has probably supported me just as much, if not more, because when pops was out there acting a fool, it was mom that was making sure that the kids were at home, eating and taking care of everything. So I think that she'll be the first to tell you that the credit is due on her more than it is on anyone else.
It's funny that you say that because I think the women in our lives aren't gun shy when it comes to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like we as men, we sort of step back and we're like, this ain't really for us. Y'all want to
yeah,
run like, hey, no, I put the work. I did. I carried you 9 months. You know what I mean? Um, but they're definitely not gun shy enough as well. Um, I think that your mother's relationship and the evolution of how you guys deal with each other is a beautiful thing. And I'm sure that going through that moment definitely changed them. And you do start to appreciate them more. As a son, you know, you understand the gravity and the work that she's put in all the years that have gone by. Um, and it is something that I also realized uh, about my mother. When you come into manhood and you have your own children, and you take a look at everything you've been through or you've watched them go through, it gives you a greater amount of respect and a better understanding of why things probably transpired the way that they did,
yeah.
right? So that's a beautiful thing. Um, let's see. So we're in this place. If you're just tuning in, it's Mr. A at the set. My special guest is Mr. Charles Nieves, Hurricane Sports Properties General Manager. Um, we've been talking about almost everything under the sun, but let's get to this point here. We're in COVID. We're home. What is it like, or what has it been like for you? And what has been the mindset that you've sort of adopted, or what has your approach been like to sort of maintain your sanity and keep a balance right now in this environment?
For me, it's been different. I'm used to being out and about, talking to people. Very active person. I was joking when it first happened in March, and the first couple of weeks, I was sitting in the backyard, and it's fenced, and it's South Florida, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna treat this like a mob boss that got sent to Florida, and I still gotta run my show. Like I was like, okay, like I'm a big Godfather fan. Like I've seen good. Like I watched those movies repeatedly. My wife, she'll walk and she'll be like, again. I'm like, yeah, again, like because I'm about to watch like how to be a boss, like just because that's what I do. And for me, like I had to go into like this role play, if you will, and like how can I run my operation from here? Like
Okay.
how can I get better? Like how can I, because what I couldn't let happen is let COVID, like let the pandemic stop me,
Right.
because at the end of the day, like I still have two little girls and a wife and a family I need to take care of. So it goes all the way back to sports. It's like when you go out that first play and you like, yo, we about to run the two phase, the tight end gonna run the post, it's gonna work. And all of a sudden the defense doesn't look like what you practice all week. And you looking at the quarterback like, bro, if I run this, like I'm out the game. He's gonna kill me. And
Right.
a good quarterback will be like, check, check, and
Mm.
change the play right there. So for me, like while I was worried, because I mean we're going through some serious stuff and it impacts everybody, right? The whole world, and it has impacted. I had to show a level of confidence so my wife and my kids had confidence in me, but also because the team I'm leading was like, hey man, are we gonna be all right? Like, are we still gonna have jobs, or and to be able to be truthful, but provide a level of confidence is tough in times like this. So for me, it gave me an opportunity to sit back here and get really grounded and try to figure out a way to approach it that whenever things get back to normal, we can hit the ground running.
Mm. Being the leader in the household is a very tough position to play because you have to maintain that level of confidence and being unshaken when things get crazy, right?
Right,
Because they all going to be looking to you anyway.
right.
They see worry on your face, that changes everything. I know there's certain situations where my wife would be like, listen, don't, nah, 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 nah. I mean, it's not one of those things where, she would ever be like, in front of my children or whatever. She'll pull me aside and be like, dude, what you doing? You going to make your kids nervous,
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that you learn through the many years that, I've been with my wife 25 years, so we've developed a strange form of communication, if you would, but it
Yeah.
works. It works.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Nieves, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate your time. I want everybody to know that this man has been uh, such a resilient and motivated person in his journey. And I think that young people really need to start taking an understanding, as I've been saying in the build up to this show. We don't all have to be on the court, we don't all have to be on the field. We can make moves to be the decision makers. And if you needed evidence of that, Mr. Nieves, that you see right here before you, is proof positive that we can do it all on every level, right? So again, I want to thank everybody for watching. But again, Mr. Nieves, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you giving us your time. And if anything in the future changes, or you have something going on, or a move, or whatever, hit me up. Let's talk, and we can definitely talk about it on the show. So you're welcome here anytime. All right?
Yeah. Appreciate it.
No, of course. Thank you so much, man. Peace. So, people, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I know everybody's been beefing to me about the uh, the sound coming in and out. I was playing with the settings. The platform is a little weird. Before everybody leaves the room, just understand that once the live broadcast goes on, the recorded version stays on Facebook, on the Facebook page at the set, and you can go on the YouTube page, the set 6145, and it'll be up there. So if you came in the middle or the end and you want to see the conversation that I had with Mr. Charles Nieves, just give it like 10, 15 minutes, and you can go back to the page and check it out. Um, Yeah. So next week, as you can see right here, let me just put it up for you really quick. The CEO from Ooh La La Films will be sitting down and having a conversation with yours truly. We're going to talk about his work, his future endeavors. And if you guys don't know who Dawood Gadsden is or Ooh La La Films, something's wrong with y'all because his work is well known and out there. Just give him, go to YouTube or whatever and pull him up, and you'll see a lot of the things that he's done. Also, house legend Mr. Mike Delgado, producer extraordinaire from Masters at Work. He has produced many of the songs that many of you folks have danced to in the clubs. So if you're a house head, if you remember back in the days, late 80s, early 90s, that house music that was rocking out, Mr. Delgado probably produced maybe three, four, five of them joints that you were dancing to. So make sure you tune into a special edition of the set Wednesday, October 14th at 7:30 p.m. as always, where we'll have Mr. Delgado on the show. So, with that being said, Hope, what's going on? You like my shirt? Shout out to Miss Deborah Morales. I see you. Mr. Eddie Rivera, I see you too. Ada, Tanya, Mr. Mark Valentine. Thank you for making an appearance tonight. Um, yeah. So another week is gone. We're gonna have quite a few shows that are already lined up, and as I said, when we get back to the studio, we'll be back to normal. The appearance of the show will be back to normal, and we won't have this whole sound dropping in and out. But I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and as always, live the life you love and love the life you live. Anybody wants a shirt or hoodie or tank top or coffee mug, just hit me on the DM. All you do is pay for what it costs. I don't charge anything. I don't make any money. But I love y'all. I'll see y'all next week.